The clock struck 2:00 a.m. in the crushing silence of Pasam Bay. The USS Gerald R. Ford moved through the abyss, operating in total electronic silence, convinced that its advanced stealth technology made it invisible. But they were walking blindly into a calculated trap, designed to dismantle the most powerful fleet on Earth. In a split second, the calm was violently ripped apart by a cataclysmic ambush that defied every simulation. The radar screens inside the Combat Information Center screamed in a crimson panic as 50 Ghadir-class midget submarines breached the surface like steel monsters, alongside 300 supercavitating torpedoes tearing through the water at 230 miles per hour to pulverize the hull. The terror intensified as 40 hidden ballistic missile batteries unmasked their payloads, while the sky was instantly choked by a suffocating swarm of 1,500 Shahed suicide drones blocking out the stars. The belief in American invincibility shattered instantly before this overwhelming mechanical tsunami that promised nothing but total obliteration. Hit the like button if you believe the fleet can somehow survive this impossible situation. The trap snapped shut with terrifying precision as the command center realized the true scale of the ambush. Iran unveiled a hidden arsenal that eclipsed all intelligence estimates. Beyond the 12 hypersonic Fatah, 3 missiles diving at 15,000 miles per hour. The coast lit up with 50 shore-based railguns firing kinetic slugs at Mach 7. The sky darkened further as 500 Arash, 2 heavy loitering munitions joined the swarm, alongside 50 low-flying Sumar cruise missiles skimming just 10 feet above the waves to evade radar. The sheer volume of fire was cataclysmic. The USS Gerald R. Ford attempted to fight back with every advanced system on board. The Odin laser dazzlers burned out trying to blind the optical sensors of the incoming swarm. The RIM-162 ESSM missiles launched in rapid succession, depleting the vertical launch cells in seconds. But for every threat neutralized, 10 more took its place. The Phalanx defense systems spun wildly, unable to lock onto the 3,000 simultaneous vectors closing in from the air and sea. The math was horrifyingly simple and absolute. The tactical computer displayed a chilling conclusion. Intercept probability 0%. The most formidable warship in human history was now a helpless target waiting to be erased. Inside the command center, a heavy silence reigned as the impact countdown clock flashed red. 20 seconds remaining. 15 seconds. There was no escape route and no backup plan. The situation was not just desperate, it was an absolute checkmate. The admiral stared at the screen, knowing that in mere moments, the pride of the fleet would be completely obliterated. Now, put yourself in the admiral chair. You have 10 seconds left. Do you choose option 1 to order an immediate evacuation to the lower decks and pray the hull holds? Or option 2 to activate an untested and dangerous experimental protocol that might destroy the ship itself? Comment 1 or 2 right now. The Combat Information Center transformed into a cauldron of digital chaos and suffocating pressure. The AN/SLQ 32 Electronic Warfare Suite screamed alarms as it failed to jam the multispectral lock of the incoming swarm. Tactical officers watched in horror as the SPY-6 radar array saturated, unable to process the 3,000 converging vectors. The conventional kinetic defense layer had evaporated. 12 seconds to impact. Admiral Harris gripped the titanium railing of the command console until his knuckles turned white. On the holographic tactical plot, the Iranian Fatah 3 warheads initiated their terminal dive maneuvers. At Mach 20, they were not just missiles. They were kinetic meteors protected by plasma sheaths that absorbed radar waves, rendering the Phalanx guns useless. The rules of naval engagement had been rewritten in fire. Option 1 was total submission, allowing the hull to be pulverized. Option 2 was a tactical gamble bordering on madness, It was Project Aegis Requital, a directed energy weapon system so classified it appeared on the manifest only as a ballast tank. The DARPA technical liaison, sweat dripping onto his classified briefing pad, stepped forward. "Admiral, kinetic interceptors are ineffective. We must initiate the high-power microwave pulse immediately, or we cease to exist." The risk was absolute. Activating the pulse required shunting the entire thermal output of the two A-1B nuclear reactors directly into the experimental capacitor banks. It would strip the ship of navigation, cooling, and life support if the magnetic containment field collapsed. The USS Gerald R. Ford would not sink. It would fuse into a radioactive slag from the inside out. 8 seconds, the tactical officer shouted. Vampire's inbound terminal velocity achieved. The blast screens showed the sky turning white as the warheads burned through the atmosphere, aimed directly at the flight deck. The Admiral looked at the countdown. 5 seconds. He slammed his hand down on the biometric authorization panel. Initiate Protocol Omega Scram the propulsion drives. Divert all gigawatts to the main emitter array. The order hit the crew like a shockwave. The lights in the command center instantly died as the ship cannibalized its own power. The hum of the ventilation cut out. For a terrifying heartbeat. The massive vessel drifted in silence. A blind giant in the dark, but deep in the hull. The reactors groaned under the strain, pushed 150% beyond their red line. A terrifying, high-pitched whine began to build, vibrating the deck plates and shattering glass screens. The air inside the room tasted of ozone and static electricity. Every hair on the crew members' arms stood straight up as the ambient electromagnetic field intensified to critical levels, threatening to stop their very hearts. Sparks rained down from the overhead conduits like golden snow as the voltage spiked far beyond the theoretical maximum. The energy was surging up the main mast, charging the niobium capacitors for a single, history-altering release, 2 seconds. The missiles were now visible to the naked eye, pillars of fire falling from the heavens. The Admiral roared into the darkness. Discharge. The discharge of Project Aegis Requital was silent to the human ear, but deafening across the electromagnetic spectrum in a single microsecond. The high-energy microwave pulse expanded outward from the USS Gerald R. Ford, creating an ionization dome 30 miles wide. The effect was instantaneous and absolute. The 12 hypersonic Fatah 3 warheads, stripped of their plasma shielding by the magnetic storm, lost all guidance telemetry and broke apart into inert debris, tumbling harmlessly into the sea. The swarm of 1,500 drones dropped from the sky like rain, hitting the dark water with a rhythmic thrashing sound. The 300 supercavitating torpedoes simply ceased to function. Their propulsion systems fused into useless metal. For 10 seconds, the bay was silent. Then, the lights on the bridge of the American carrier flickered back to life. The main reactors spun up from idle to full combat power in a roar of mechanical resurrection. Admiral Harris did not smile. He simply gave the next order. Launch the Alert 5 aircraft initiate Ghost Protocol. The time for defense was over. It was time to unleash the full weight of the fleet. On the flight deck, the electromagnetic aircraft launch system screamed as it hurled 40 tons of metal into the night sky every 45 seconds. 2 squadrons of F-35C Lightning II stealth fighters roared into the air. But this was not a conventional bombing run. These pilots were flying in total emission silence. Their radars were off. To the surviving Iranian sensors on the coast, the sky was empty. The F-35s were not searching with their own eyes. High above the chaos, an E-2D Advanced Hawkeye circled at 25,000 feet, acting as the all-seeing eye of the battlefield. Its massive ANAPY-9 radar pierced through the electronic fog. beaming targeting data directly to the helmet displays of the fighter pilots via secure multifunction data links. The F-35s fanned out, forming a digital net over the bay. They did not fire missiles instead. They acted as forward sensor nodes for the second wave of the operation. The EA-18G Growlers launched next, carrying the next-generation jammer pods under their wings. This was the non-kinetic capability of the US Navy. They did not drop explosives. They dropped algorithms targeting the bewildered Iranian command centers buried in the cliffs. The Growlers unleashed a torrent of cyber payloads and high-power microwave beams. Inside the Iranian bunkers, screens did not shatter. They simply froze. The complex fire control software that managed the ballistic missiles was overwritten in real time, replaced by a single static image of the US Navy crest. The communications network used to coordinate the swarm was hijacked, forcing every radio on the Iranian coast to broadcast a looped message of surrender. The entire command structure of the opposing force was neutralized, without a single physical engagement. Simultaneously on the surface, 2 Arleigh Burke-class destroyers, the USS Spruance and the USS Paul Ignatius, broke formation and surged toward the mouth of the bay at 30 knots. Their prows cut through the debris field of the fallen drones. They were tracking the disabled submarines, deprived of their navigation and propulsion by the EMP blast. The 50 Ghadir-class midget submarines were forced to blow their ballast tanks and surface to avoid system failure, as the submarines breached the water. Bobbing helplessly like corks, they were met by the blinding glare of million candle-power searchlights. The destroyers maneuvered with precise grace, positioning themselves to block any escape. The 5-inch guns of the American ships trained on the surfaced submarines, but did not fire. The threat was enough. The Iranian crews, trapped in their steel tubes with no power and no way to respond, watched in despair as the massive gray hulls of the US warships circled them. The encirclement was complete. The US Navy had not just stopped the opposing force, they had surgically dismantled it, turning a massive armada into a floating parking lot of useless hardware. The sky, the sea, and the electromagnetic spectrum belonged entirely to the USS Gerald R. Ford. Dawn broke over the Makran coast, revealing a scene of devastating silence. The sun illuminated the wreckage of what was once a formidable armada, now reduced to a floating junkyard. The financial toll was catastrophic. In less than 20 minutes, $15 billion of Iranian defense budget had been rendered worthless. The surface of the bay was carpeted with the broken remains of 1,500 Shahed drones, bobbing in the gentle waves like plastic waste. The 50 Ghadir-class submarines, the pride of the underwater force, drifted aimlessly, their systems fried beyond repair, towed into captivity by American destroyers. This was not just a defeat. It was an economic disaster that wiped out a decade of naval accumulation. Strategically, the consequences were even more profound. The secret base at Pazam Bay, designed to be the ultimate choke point, was now exposed and useless. The doctrine of the oceanic siege, built on the theory of overwhelming numbers, had collapsed before the reality of directed energy physics. The myth of the hypersonic missile was shattered. The world watched as the feared Fatah 3 weapons failed not because they were intercepted, but because they were simply turned off. The psychological impact on the Iranian command was devastating. There were no casualties to mourn, only the crushing weight of incompetence. The operators in the bunkers did not face the glory of combat. They faced the cold, hard truth that their most advanced weapons were nothing more than toys against the USS Gerald R. Ford. As the American fleet turned and sailed away, intact and invincible, they left behind something far more damaging than a crater. They left behind a sense of absolute inferiority. The ambition to control the sea had been erased. not by fire, but by a switch. The confrontation at Pasam Bay concluded with a silence that screamed louder than any explosion. History often tells us that conflict is a tragedy, demanding a heavy price paid in sorrow. But today, the narrative changed completely. No mothers wept over empty coffins. No folded flags were handed to trembling widows. 5,000 American sailors returned to hold their children, and thousands of Iranian sons walked home to their parents. This miracle serves as a blinding beacon of hope for a weary world. It proves that when technology reaches its absolute zenith, it grants us the ultimate power, the power to choose life over darkness. True strength is not measured by the cities we can level or the ruins we leave behind, but by the peace we can enforce without shedding a single drop of blood. We have witnessed a rare vision of the future where the terrifying machinery of defense is finally tamed to save humanity rather than erase it. This is the dream we must all strive for. Do you share this deep desire for a world where conflicts end without loss? Spread this vision of harmony by hitting the like button, sharing your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing to join us on this journey toward a peaceful horizon. Goodbye, and see you again.